There you go. We're live. So, hi, Gaby. Very nice to have you in our podcast. It's been a while. So, I would love to introduce you to our visitors, to our clients, podcast listeners. So, please introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about yourself.
Okay, sure. My name's Gabby. My real name is Gabriella Erito, but everybody calls me Gabby. I live in absolutely beautiful Aspen, Colorado. And for those who don't know it, it's a ski resort. So lots of outdoor activities here, very beautiful in the mountains. I've lived here 5 years and I have been matchmaking for 9 years, almost 10. Let's see, what else about me? Yeah, I run my business out of my home, and it's a labor of love.
Oh, wow. That's a nice line. I never heard that line. The labor
It's
of
a
love.
literal labor of love.
Yeah, wonderful line. Thank you for your introduction. And I'm going to very briefly introduce myself. For those who don't know, I am the CEO of SmartMatchApp, the number one matchmaking software. And we help matchmakers, communities, and any membership organizations to connect their members, to introduce their members, to match their members. So that's what we do. And obviously, we will be talking a lot about matchmaking today, about the business of in the industry of matchmaking. Gabi, let's start with the first question. Let's get our viewers a little more about your story, about your background and experience in the industry, so they can get a better, so they can get better understanding of where you come from and where you're going.
So I started my matchmaking business late in life. I was in my 40s when I started it. I had already been through several other career paths. I had worked in finance for Merrill Lynch. I had worked as a political fundraiser for 2 years. I had worked in interior design for 3 years. I had worked, most of my career had been actually in the entertainment business, working in Hollywood in agencies, small agencies that you would have never heard of, and then really, really big, powerful agencies for really powerful people. So my matchmaking came late in life. It came very much out of the blue. I mean, like many matchmakers, I had already been a sort of a natural connector. I was a natural connector my entire life. I was that girl in high school or in college that was always like, oh, Jim might like Susie. And I wanted to introduce people. And it occurred to me only later that this maybe actually was a valuable thing to do. Um, in fact, I didn't even make really a big conscious decision to go into matchmaking. I was about to sign up for a matchmaking service one day, and right on the brink of filling out my credit card information, I had the thought that instead of signing up for the service, I should write a letter to the company that was running the service and tell them that I thought I should come work for them. And that's what I did. I put my credit card away. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I wrote them an email. They called me the next day. They hired me that week. And I went to work for a big national company before I broke off from that company and started my own boutique solopreneurship matchmaking business. So it really was like my life changed on a dime in the middle of the night one night. And that's the interesting thing about life, I guess. So here I am. I honestly thought when I did that, when I wrote that company and told them that I should come work for them, my thought was, I'll do this for 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, maybe. It'll be interesting. It'll be amusing. And maybe it'll give me a little bit of income while I go and look for some other kind of job, like in finance or in marketing or something that seemed more quote unquote real, as quote unquote real work. And then this career just started for me, and it's just been like a snowball effect ever since.
Wonderful. I can relate to a couple of things actually in your introduction. I don't know if you know, but I also worked in the entertainment industry, but on a technical side.
Oh, I didn't know that.
for a software company. And I was in charge of business development there. It was not my own business. I and we designed the software for agencies as well, for
Wow.
talent agencies. So
Mhm.
if you refer to talent agencies,
Yeah.
that's we designed the software for talent agency
Mm.
for booking, a database, backend database, completely website interactions, like similar to matchmaking software, but for the but for the talent industry.
Well, I tell people matchmaking is being an agent on some level. You are a booking agent.
Yeah,
That's what you
you
are.
are.
So
You can also say recruiter,
yeah,
personal
all
recruiter.
yes, and a talent seeker and all of the things. I mean, many of the same things that I felt were at play in the Hollywood agency world, I feel are at play in the matchmaking world.
So you probably know casting networks, right?
Yeah, and I worked for the William Morris agency and went through the merger to WME. So I really worked with big movie stars working on their movie roles.
Right, right. So that's wonderful. So there is that, we have some common experience. And just the other point about starting a business, or changing something in your life over like literally overnight. I've
Hmm.
been there too myself, starting a business. It's a scary feeling sometimes. You're like, okay, what am I really doing? You wake up in the morning, oh my God, okay. Maybe in your case it was different. I
No,
don't
I still feel that way every morning. I'm many years into this now, and I wake up every morning and I'm like, what am I doing? And is this going to work?
And it is working. It is
So
working.
far.
As far
So,
as I know, we have absolutely great, great connection with you, and I know that your clients are happy. Um, so let's continue. This is interesting. Thank you for sharing this, and I'm sure that our clients or our members will relate to this story. Um, Let me ask you your favorite story in your business. So, yes, you became a matchmaker. You worked for a company for a while, learning the ropes and everything. Then you started your own business. Um, and I think boutique matchmaking is actually very needed. It's like very personalized. And I think your clients are probably the most grateful if you give them the time, the personal attention. I think that's really where the still is the large value of matchmaking,
mhm,
in that sense. It's not
mhm,
just your typical setting appointments, or dates for people. It's more like helping them to find the perfect match. That's
mhm,
how I see boutique matchmaking. Is that
mhm.
correct?
Yeah, yes, for me, I mean, I'm a little hesitant always to use words like perfect, and to even guarantee anything around finding someone's their match. I call my company KIS, Keeper Introduction Services, and the emphasis really is on the word introduction, because in my mind what my job is to set you up on a series of introductions of potential candidates that I think would be good for you and that you agree are worthy for you to meet. The thing about matchmaking, of course, is that there's a lot of psychology that goes into a client, and a client may not be ready to meet their match, even if they hire a matchmaker, or it just might not be their time. I mean, if you look at something like, do are our lives at all controlled by fate or anything like that? But what I see my job as is to make introductions, really good introductions. And so that's
And
how I see it.
what are your favorite introductions and matches? You don't have to name anyone, obviously, for the privacy reasons, but just does does any story come up like
Well,
into your.
what's nice is I have gotten a lot of people married, which has been great. And I also have a whole bunch of babies born now. I don't have children myself, but I like to tell people, like, I've had 7 babies. I think I'm at 7 babies right now. So, in these regards, I really feel like I've changed the world, right? I mean, well, human beings are on the earth who could do all kinds of things on this earth, that are there because of an introduction that I thought of and I set up. So in that way, I find the work quite powerful. Um, some stories, I
Maybe
kind
maybe a story where that is memorable, where
of,
like especially those cases that are maybe difficult in the beginning, like you said, and it's very very true. Not every person is ready for a match, even though they want it. Sometimes they're just not yet there, not ready, not matchable. They need to maybe work on themselves. I love those stories, the stories where people are really having a hard time, maybe, or something like that.
yeah, I always love it when a client ends up with somebody that that was outside of the sphere of what they originally asked for or wanted. So, for example, I had a client in Chicago. He was 36 and very tall, 6'6",
Oh, wow.
and he really wanted to meet somebody in Chicago. And I sent him up with a couple women in Chicago. He liked them, but they weren't the right match for him. And then I actually went to my own Facebook page, my own social media Facebook page, and I wrote a little bit about him and what he was looking for. And a past client of mine, who was my Facebook friend now, who was now happily married, read what I wrote and said, that sounds a lot like my secretary who he's looking for. However, she's
Yeah.
in New York. And so I called him up and I said, I know you said Chicago, and I know you have a home in Chicago and a business in Chicago, but I'd really love you to meet this girl in New York. And I'd like to put you on a FaceTime call with her. She happened to be 6'3", by the way. So,
Wow.
really tall woman. And
I
I said,
imagine not I just not to interrupt too much, but I imagine how hard it is for a tall woman
can you imagine to be
to
six foot
find.
three? Can you imagine?
From what I know, and I am in matchmaking industry about the same time as you, or 10 years, a little bit less than that. But from what I know, women like taller men.
Yeah.
So
Definitely tough. So I set them up on a FaceTime date. They had a great FaceTime call. The next weekend he flew to see her. The following weekend she flew to see him. And 9 months later, they got married in a cathedral in Portugal. Now they have a baby and a dog. But one of the interesting twists for me on this story was that in his visits to New York to visit her, he decided that he actually liked being in New York. And so we ended up moving to New York, and they live together in New York City now, or right outside of New York City. So that's stories like that are always fun for me because he was open. He was open to trying something different, trying something that hadn't been on what he originally asked. Another fun story for me, I had a woman.
I
She's
can listen all day long to the stories like
Yeah,
that.
they're fun, right?
Please.
So there was a woman who actually was the call of a matchmaking client of a colleague of mine. My colleague called me up and said, Do you think you might know someone for this woman?" And she was Greek, and I've spent a lot of time in Greece. It's just one of my like vacation spots. And if there's one thing I know about Greeks, it's that they really like other Greeks. Greeks love to get together. They love to, like, one dinner turns into 10 people, turns into 30 people.
It's a
Greeks
whole
love,
other culture. I've been there a couple of times, and
yeah,
it's just very social, very
very
warm.
special, and they
Yeah.
really get along well with each other. So I knew this Greek kid and this Greek boy, and he was a few years younger than she was. And I said, I do know this Greek boy, and at the very worst scenario, they're gonna have a fun dinner because they're Greek, so they're gonna have a great dinner. Let's like send him out to like a Greek restaurant or something. So he comes back from the date, and he said, "She's amazing. She's incredible. I really like her. Do you have someone just like her, but younger?" And I said, "No, I don't. If you like her, you like her. And if you like her, you take her out again." Anyway, they're now also married with a baby.
Wow. So it's this magic of matchmaking, this miracle of matchmaking. You inspire me. And in fact, one of my favorite lines when people ask me, you're going to love the story, it has to do with babies. So when people ask me, what do you do? I used to say in the past a lot, software development, software development. Oh, okay, software development. And I now lately, like in the last couple of years, actually, it's my favorite line. I'm in the business of making babies, because guess what? Guess what? We provide the software for matchmakers who then make matches, and there you go, make babies.
Yeah. They're
So
babies, but I will say a lot of matchmaking clients are older. I would say the majority of my clients tend to be people who are in their 50s and 60s. That's just the business that I run because of the price point of my business. It's not that often that someone in their 20s or early 30s comes to sign up with me. So I, in my mind, I make love. And if it happens to have a baby come out of it, great. But my goal is to make love, is to spread love and make love. And that's more my focus, is to try to find someone their match. The Dalai Lama says, what you want for yourself, give to another. And I have always really wanted like a beautiful, beautiful love with somebody. And so in my mind, I get up during the day and I try to give to others what I want for myself.
I if someone who is now looking for a match, or somebody looking for introduction, I think they need to hear that and maybe reach out to you, because that is the
Uh,
amazing vision, amazing
yeah.
energy. The energy is incredible.
Mm.
um, so I would like to maybe ask you a little bit about the technology part, because a lot of our clients who come and look for the software that in the back end, so it's going to be, we're shifting this conversation a little bit to the technology part. Um, what you're using SmartMatchApp, obviously, which is made for matchmakers. Tell me a little bit about what were your technology, what were you using, if anything, before SmartMatchApp, and how SmartMatchApp changed your business.
Well, first of all, I started working for another company and they had their own proprietary software. To be really honest, I didn't like their software that much, and they changed it a lot in the time that I was at the company. And in my opinion, they changed it for the worse. And when I left the company, I did a little research as to various ways that I could run my, database, my customer management and database. And I had a couple suggestions. At first I didn't, before I heard about Smart Match, someone had suggested to me that there were things I could do through Google or this or that. What I know I didn't want to do was to spend an enormous amount of money reinventing the wheel. People, I have heard that there are matchmakers who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to create their own database system. And I just thought that's absolutely ridiculous to go into that kind of debt at the beginning of a business. And then,
Especially if you're a boutique matchmaker, I mean, the ROI, the return on that investment, my
yeah,
God, how long is going to take? Because,
it's, yeah. And then someone told me about Smart Match app, and I looked into it. I took, I think, a course or two, like they could, you could sign up where they could give you a little training. And I just thought, well, this is obviously good. I have to say, I really, really am impressed. And not only am I impressed and have used it from the very first day that I started my own business, but I have turned many, many people who were leaving companies. I know a lot of times people call me when they're leaving a big company to start their own business because they know that that's what I did. And they're really worried about what they're going to do about a database management system. And I say to them, you just cannot do better than this. There's no beating this system. I tell them it's really, really well designed. It's really well run. The customer service is incredible. I just don't know how they could improve it. I say that to people. I'm like, there's just no improving. Whatever improvement you could think of, they've already thought of. So I've been incredibly, incredibly happy and impressed. And I've gotten several other people. I don't need to name their names, but I could tell you later. A whole bunch of other people who use Smart Match app now use it because I told them to use it, and they all love it too. we all agree this is the best that could possibly happen. We don't know if we could have our businesses without this system, and we're just very happy with it.
I don't want to even interrupt you. Keep going.
No, you did a great job. You did a great job.
Thank you so much for this wonderful worlds. I had a few other questions about the experience that you have with Smart Matchup, but you answered it all in this segment. So the only question that I guess I would like to ask about our technology is, what is your maybe favorite feature, like a little bit specific? Like if I was a matchmaker listening to this video, what would you highlight for them so that they don't waste time or money, or just get their attention? Matchmakers have similar problems, similar challenges when they're starting their businesses, especially. So what would you recommend? What would you highlight for them?
Well, one of the interesting things about your technology, even versus the technology of the company I had been with, because I much prefer your technology, is I use, as many matchmakers do, I use advanced search a lot, which means for example, there's a TV show being filmed tonight in Salt Lake City. It's called Sister Wives. It's a famous TV show on the Learning Channel. I was on a TV show on the Learning Channel 2 or 3 years ago, and the producer of my TV show, which was called I Am Shauna Ray, called me a few days ago to ask me if I could help her because her friend produces Sister Wives, and her friend was throwing a speed dating event that's going to be filmed for the TV show. And they needed men in Salt Lake City. And so the very first thing that I could do is I could go into my SmartMatch app and I could do men in the age range that they were looking for. And then I could type in Salt Lake City, and then I could put a range radius, a miles radius from Salt Lake City. So, Salt Lake City within 50 miles or 100 miles of Salt Lake City. And then suddenly anybody who had entered my database who was in 30 miles or 40 miles of Salt Lake City could come up. That's the kind of thing I use all the time. And then I called one of them, and then he loved the idea of going on the TV show, and he called two friends of his to go with him. So tonight I now have three men going to be on this TV show that I was able to find by searching through my SmartMatch app.
Wonderful. I can tell you one thing. It's music to my ears. It's jazz. It's rock and roll. I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing this sort of nuance, how quickly you can get access to your information in your database and use it for a practical business purpose, whether it's networking, whether it's setting up an appointment. I
Yeah.
love it. Thank you for sharing that.
And the other thing, by the way, that I really love for me is I'm not great at technology, and I need help. I need a lot of hand holding, and I'm like, kind of like somewhere between a slightly intelligent monkey and a little bit out of it teenager or something. But every time, for example, I just redid my website, and with the redoing my website and doing some different marketing, I wanted my database entry form to have some changes behind it. And all I have to do is I find the customer service is so good that I just write SmartMatchApp and I say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I redid my website and I wanted to make a couple changes on the form. Is there someone who can help me? And immediately someone goes, oh, well, so-and-so can meet you tomorrow, over video and help you make those changes. And so there's just a lot of aid and support for me from a technological element. You're so supportive and so helpful with anything that I want to do, from small changes to large changes. And that has been great for me. That's made me really loyal to this. I mean, I don't even know if there's a competitor, but if there is, I can't imagine that they have this level of customer service.
Yeah, customer service is the number one priority for me because it's just how I want to be treated, and that's how we train our guys and make sure. And hiring our guys, one of the main questions is: do you like people? Do you like to help people?
Yeah.
Do you want to just be in a place where you have every day you have an opportunity to help people with technology? Because we work with people. Like, you are a perfect example, as you described yourself, of a people person. You want to work with people. You are great at matching, introducing psychology. Your clients need so much psychological support, and hand holding. And it's a time consuming job, and that's why I understand why you're targeting the people you're targeting, and who really appreciate that kind of, that kind of bespoke service. I understand all of that. And you need also someone to be like that with you with the technology. You need us to take care of you technology
Correct.
wise, so you don't
Yes.
have to worry about bugs. You don't
Right.
have to worry about, hey, I need to change the color of my form on my website. It's very customizable, so we can just jump on the call and do it for you. We know you. We know our clients like like our palm.
Right.
Technology is challenging, and the speed and friendly support is key. So we got that down path long time ago.
I would even go so far as to say it's always nice, the matchmakers, as you know, have Zoom calls sometimes in the various governing bodies of the matchmaking business, like the Alliance or the Global Love Institute. Sometimes there are Zoom calls. And what's so nice to me is sometimes there's a representative of Smart Match on those Zoom calls just to listen in and hear what we're struggling with, what we're going through, who and meet who we are. And I'm like, there they are. They don't need to be on this call, but they're on this call so that they can be tapped in to what's happening for us in our industry.
Yeah, Matchmaker Alliance is our favorite group. Great Facebook group, by the way. For all the new matchmakers who are listening to this, please consider joining. It will, the time, and it's just a small amount of money that they charge. It's a non-profit organization. It will pay 100x. You will meet amazing matchmakers like Gaby, who will give you a tip, a hand, and what goes around, it goes around, right? So it paid forward. Wonderful industry to be in my opinion, in the future, today and in the future. So I'm going to shift a little bit to the next question. Gabi, how do you see matchmaking industry in the near future, or in a medium, let's say even future, in the next 5 years? Let's be more specific to help you answer that question.
Well, the numbers say that the industry is growing. I think that starting from probably the TV show out a few years ago called Millionaire Matchmaker, that kind of put matchmaking on people's map. And then it's become, and then there's been a lot of coverage in newspapers, from the Wall Street Journal to New York Times. So as the numbers show, matchmaking is a growing industry, and there are more and more matchmakers, although fortunately I don't think so many more than can keep up with the business. I think, like with all businesses, the some of the challenge is the market share for the boutique or small matchmaking service over the behemoths that can spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on advertising and SEO and all that stuff. How do we, as the boutique services, which I personally think do a significantly better job, how do we, as the boutique services, get some of the market share? So I think that more and more people will be using matchmaking. I think it's becoming less stigmatized, more normalized. I like to tell people it's a luxury service, and people like luxuries and they like luxury services. As far as AI goes, I have not yet been particularly threatened by AI, because I still think that the people who are hiring me want the human touch and want the human feedback and want the human conversations. So I'm not yet worried about, I hear that there's something called like Lara or something out there that's an AI matchmaking service. I mean, I think to me these things might try to rise up. Let's see if any of them succeeds. Personally, I wouldn't want AI to be doing this work for me. I do think, however, AI can help me. For example, I know a lot of matchmakers that now, if they have a form that they need to send to their clients, they will ask AI to help them with that form. Or maybe they're having a challenge with a client and they will ask AI for some tips on how to approach the challenge. That kind of thing, I think, can be AI can be useful for us. But like many industries, I don't think AI can replace us yet. So how do I see matchmaking in the future? I mean, I I hope that it gets bigger and bigger and more accepted. I mean, there's Jewish matchmaker on Netflix, there's Indian matchmaker on Netflix. It's just, I hope that more and more people get comfortable. I'd like it to be that just in the same way that anybody who's going to purchase a home thinks, of course, it's natural to go to a real estate agent. Right now, of course, you need a real estate agent legally, unless you yourself, I think, hire a lawyer to do the work. But I would like to think that we get into a world in 20 years or 30 years where people just use this service completely normally.
100%. In fact, I agree with you about the AI on strongly in terms of the extremes. When there is an extreme of in automation, when there's extreme in AI, I think there's going to be also the other extreme, which is craving for personal touch.
Mm-hmm.
The more there is the extreme of impersonalization, the more they will be craving to balance it out for a personal touch. So I believe for many many years to come, or maybe even forever, because this is the oldest, one of the oldest matchmakers, one of the oldest professions, and it will continue to be forever, because I think this is a personal touch, and yes, AI can augment and help and assist in many ways in like a software. We're also going to implement some productivity features like help sections or chatbots, or helping the complete emails, or like summarizing emails or summarizing a profile for you, etc., etc. But still, the actual matchmaking is a personal touch. I think people will crave more and more. The more there is technology impersonal, the more they will be craving for personal touch. So I believe that's why I think you're in the right. You're you are you got the right point about luxury, about the personal. I think that is the path for boutique matchmakers. Would you like to you said something very important and interesting to me, that I think will be resonating for all the other matchmakers. How do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself from, as a boutique matchmaking? How do you get the market share? So marketing is always everybody's concern. Marketing, customer acquisition, and generally speaking, business development. Anything you would like to share with, especially with the beginner matchmakers? Believe it or not, we have a lot of matchmakers who are beginning their businesses like you did once upon a time, and they come looking for a technology so they can just use this right away. It takes a couple of days and they can start running a matchmaking business, but there's much more to it than database. So in terms of marketing, in terms of business development, in terms of positioning, any valuable tips for this, especially for the runner-ups, for the new matchmakers?
Well, for me, it's helpful probably to have some kind of niche, right? So, there are Christian matchmakers, there is this type of matchmaker, that type of matchmaker.
Hundred
Personally,
percent, 100%. Yes, we
you
have
know,
them
my
all.
because I live in Aspen and I also have a small home in another mountain town, a 4-hour drive from this mountain town. What made a lot of sense for me is to try to cater to the types of people who live in the towns where I am. The good news is the towns where I am tend to be very upscale and well to do towns, and they attract a very distinct type of person. They attract a type of person who likes to do a lot of stuff outdoors, who's very mountainy, whether that's mountain biking or skiing or snowshoeing or fishing or whatever. So for me, there was already a little bit of a natural niche that I wanted to go for, which is I kind of wanted to go for this outdoorsy, athletic, fit, upper scale professional. Um, and the way I tell everyone, the most money I have ever made in my business has not yet been my paid advertising. I have done some paid advertising, but I just went to the local newspapers of the two towns where I have homes. And I said, hey, I'm running a matchmaking business and I'm basing it out of here and I'm basing it towards the types of people who live in your town. And both of these newspapers wrote articles about me for
Free
free.
publicity, free
And
publicity.
those articles made me more money than anything I have ever done otherwise in terms of marketing and advertising. So I always tell every new matchmaker who's starting, the very first thing you should do is try to get local papers to cover you by going to those local papers and saying, you're a newspaper, I'm news. You're a newspaper, my business is news.
I mean, they need news all the time,
They
and
do.
that's their job. And if
Right.
you have a special angle, and like today, you can share some stories that relate to people, normal people in the community. I love your focus on the community and clarity about your community, who they are, what they do.
Yeah.
I think
And
this
look,
is
I take clients outside of these mountain towns. I'll take clients in New York and Miami and all kinds of places. But all of my clients kind of still fit the same wheelhouse. They do tend to be people who like a bunch of these kinds of activities. not I'm not really taking that must be you. I'm not really taking, like I always say to people, I'm probably not taking like couch potatoes. I'm not taking people whose main thing that they want to do is sit at home and watch TV and play card games. Those just wouldn't be my clientele.
so that deepens the understanding of what niche is, and it's is across all the businesses. It's about knowing who your client is and where to find them, and then find a way to talk to them. It could be newspaper, could be podcast, could be radio show. The point is that find your channel, go talk to your clients, and it could be free completely, because those channels, they need content, they need news, they need experts,
Hmm.
and you are a matchmaking expert. What's more important out there than personal relationships out there, so everybody loves to talk about that. That's great content for pretty much any news outlet. It's an amazing content. So that is an easy tip to implement for all of us. I would like to ask you, before we wrap up for today, how would you like your clients to find you? Where can they find you? Where are you normally living on the net? Is this maybe Instagram? Is it maybe website? Is it some
Yeah,
other place?
probably the best way to find me is my website, which is Keeper Intros, KEEPERINTROS.com. Like you're my keeper, keep and introductions, Keeper Intros. And then on that website is both my email, which is Gaby, Gaby at keeperintros.com, and also my phone number, 310-729-0992. So if someone wants to find me, they can find me there. I love to talk to everybody. Um, and um, and yeah, for me, I love to be engaged with these people. All these years later, why I stay in this business too is here I am 10 years in, and every date I set up, I'm still really excited to hear what happens on that date. I still get very, very excited to hear, oh, did Neil like Jenny? Did Scott like Cindy? So that's how I know that I'm still excited. I really do want to help people, and I really do want to hear how the dates go, and I really am enthusiastic about helping them find someone they really want to be with.
Honestly, if I was in a, let's call it on the market, I would be just like knocking in your door, please
Oh, good.
help
Okay,
me
good.
out. Look, guys, please reach out to Gabriela if you have any. If you're a matchmaker, maybe please reach out and discuss how you can collaborate. Especially the new matchmakers. You know, the established matchmakers. They have their own ways. They have their own systems already. But the new matchmakers, the ones that are starting, and you're right, the matchmaking business is growing. This industry is growing. It's confirmed. I look at the statistics also on a regular basis, and they come in from other jobs, like from other walks of life, psychology practices, therapy practices. They come from even recruiting business. I mean, I've seen matchmakers who come from HR business and start the matchmaking business, etc., etc. You came from entertainment business, you know. So it's an industry that attracts entrepreneurs at heart, but most importantly, passionate people about connecting, about making love, about making families, about making, you know, connections and relationships. So please reach out to Gabi. It was Gabriela Aparo from beautiful city of Aspen. It's one of my favorite cities. It's a
Oh
wonderful
yeah,
place.
you've been to Aspen?
Okay, a couple of times, yes. You know, and I love the energy over there, and I love your energy. You're just
Oh, thank you.
radiating the energy today. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for your generous time, and until next time, thank you very much.
For sure. Bye, everybody.